Happy New Year! So in my videos I have now covered what makes comfortable flow and what makes for good aesthetics. These topics can be fairly easy to understand on their own, but some people may struggle with combining these 2 points together, i.e. how to make a nice flowing map and make it look good at the same time. The reason why this is difficult is because both of these techniques require you to place notes on the grid of the map. So each note has to take into consideration both the flow through the object and how it looks in comparison to the other objects around it. So I started trying to put my thoughts together on how mappers take into consideration both flow and aesthetics. But then I realised something. I took a step back, took one hard look at the elephant that I drew for this stupid gag, and thought to myself, hang on a second, what is flow? There is no hard official definition for flow, and I have tried looking. The proposed new standard criteria has a list of terms that cover things like polarity and note density, but nothing on flow. The list of mapping techniques is pretty outdated and doesn't have anything useful. The glossary returns no results. The current standard criteria returns no results, and the general ranking criteria doesn't have anything useful either. There are community written articles and even videos on the subject of flow, but other than that, there is no solid documentation, which is why many new mappers seem to struggle with the concept. But yet, mappers and players talk about flow like it's the backbone of a map. The nomination team have certainly refused to qualify maps in the past for poor flow choices, despite there being no direct mention in the ranking criteria, and I trust them to continue to do so too. The two main articles about flow mention right at the very start of the topic that flow is subjective, and that different people will have different definitions of it, but many terms such as circular flow and sharp angles come up every time people talk about good flow, so surely there must be some things we can all agree upon. If we want to understand flow, I think we need to write down some rules and definitions. This is far from being official, but this is how I would define flow. Flow refers to the general trajectory of the player's cursor through each hit object in a beat map, i.e. how the player moves their cursor to click the circles. So that's the general definition of flow, but the whole topic of flow is a bit more complicated than that. Many people talk about good and bad flow when they're talking about a beat map, but these two words seem to be the ones drawing the most controversy. What people usually mean, and should be calling instead, is comfortable and uncomfortable flow, since that is directly referring to the property of the flow rather than an opinion of its quality. Comfortable flow does not necessarily mean good mapping, and vice versa, uncomfortable flow does not necessarily mean bad mapping. The reasons for this have been explained before. Below that, we can also write the rules for what makes comfortable and uncomfortable flow. Most experienced mappers will have come across terms like linear flow, circular flow, and maybe drop-off flow at some point in their mapping career, unless you're Charles and you call it oval flow, but these are rules that outline a type of comfortable flow, and breaking any of these rules will most likely result in uncomfortable flow. You can think of it a bit like a maths equation. You have a bunch of objects as your numbers, you add or subtract flow techniques, and then it'll spit out a comfortness of your flow. Again, the specifics of these flow techniques have been discussed before. I'll actually leave all of my references in the description below. So now we have some general rules on flow written down. Great, so now the next step will be for me to talk about combining flow with aesthetics. But I've already gone through quite a lot of information here. In fact, I haven't been able to write the script for that part yet because this needed to be covered first, so next time then. With this out of the way, I can now finish writing the script for that video and stop thinking about elephants.